Welcome to Retro Video Playback and to episode 20 of Tape Talk Tuesday. This week, for the 20th episode of Tape Talk Tuesday, I'm doing something a little different. Rather than focusing on a specific movie or series, I'm taking a look at a certain type of VHS, the double tape. Now, when I say double tape, I'm talking one movie on two tapes, not a mini-series like this Noble House triple tape, or a combo release of more than one movie in a package, or a TV series or a special of some kind. We're talking one movie long enough that it couldn't fit onto just one tape. Over the first 19 episodes of Tape Talk Tuesday, I've featured a few double tape VHS releases, including The Godfather trilogy, Heat, Scarface, and Casino, and we see each of those movies here again. Along with them are a number of other double tape VHS: The Deer Hunter, Gone with the Wind, The Great Escape, The Green Mile, Inside the Third Reich, Jaws, Lawrence of Arabia, The Longest Day, The Lord of the Rings, Malcolm X, Pearl Harbor, Saving Private Ryan, The Sound of Music, and Titanic. This isn't an exhaustive list of all double tapes, but I'd say it's certainly the majority of the major ones. A couple of these movies are available in single tape versions, like Saving Private Ryan and the first two Lord of the Rings movies, whose double tape is a special limited edition version, while Return of the King has both versions as a double tape, and Heat, as I discussed in episode 5 of Tape Talk Tuesday, where the difference between the single and the double tape versions are unknown to me. Then you have some movies that came in different versions of double tapes, like The Sound of Music and The Deer Hunter, where one version has two individual tapes in separate sleeves, and the other version with two tapes in one sleeve. Titanic is also available in both versions, but is more subtle, as on the single two-tape version they come in an additional box. And of course, you've got some movies that came in special versions in a large box, like this deluxe edition of Gone with the Wind. I can't speak for anyone else, but one of the primary reasons that I like collecting VHS tapes, next to my enjoyment of movies and their nostalgia factor, is simply because of how they look on the shelf. Books, in my opinion, are the most diverse in their collectability and showcasing because they come in countless shapes and sizes: hardcover, paperback, thick, skinny, short, tall. DVD and Blu-ray, while not horrible depending on the movie, can be a bit underwhelming. And don't even get me started on CDs. But VHS tapes, they're the optimal size for displaying on the shelf. Big enough to accommodate decent-sized artwork, but not so big that they take up more size than is reasonable. Then to take them and double the width, you've really got something going for the size to display the spine artwork. Realistically, if all VHS tapes were double tapes, I'm not sure that I would be as keen on them, but to have just a handful of them in my collection, including some of my favorites, adds a unique aspect to the shelf. You'll notice that there are no comedies here. I'd say it's rare for a comedy to even be long enough to require a double tape release. The only comedy long enough that immediately comes to mind is 2009's Funny People, which is 2 hours and 26 minutes long, but that was released a few years after major movies stopped being released on VHS. With how much I like double tapes, I will recognize the downside of having to pause partway through the movie to rewind to tape 1 and switch out to tape 2. But at the same time, it's also an excuse for an intermission. As I get older, I find it more difficult to make it through a full movie in one sitting, for one reason or another, especially with these longer movies. So maybe a required intermission isn't the worst thing. Taking a look at some of these double tapes, we have examples of movies that took advantage of the size available on the spines, and some that made no effort to use that extra bit of real estate. You've got movies like Casino, The Godfather movies, and Heat that use designs that are not as feasible for a single tape. Meanwhile, you have some of the other movies like Jaws and Titanic, whose design could easily appear on a single tape with just a minor modification. The tops of all of these tapes are, unfortunately, as they would be on single tapes, while the front covers are, obviously, the exact same as a single tape would be, as there's no difference in the size dimensions. Like them, hate them, indifferent about them, double tapes exist the way that they do. The movies that receive double tape releases exist, and those that didn't, do not. They're pretty widely available to enjoy, or an option to omit from your shelves. While we have had a few new movies in the last year released on VHS, as things stand, we're unlikely to receive any new double tape VHS releases. With that, we find ourselves at the end of our discussion of double tape VHS releases, and the end of episode 20 of Tape Talk Tuesday. Thanks for watching Retro Video Playback.